Hey everybody, Jimmy Smith back this time with my reactions to a main event upset that was very, very big and I think has a lot of consequences for the welterweight division. Kamaru Usman over Joaquin Buckley by unanimous decision. I didn't do a pre-fight breakdown of this card. I don't do a lot of the fight night card breakdowns. People don't seem that interested in them because the cards aren't really that necessarily that interesting. We got, 7 or 8 in a row without a legitimate finish. In this fight, a lot of decisions, meaning we had the up kick, the controversial Paul Craig up kick finish, right? It was a DQ. And then we had a technical decision in round 3. But other than that, a lot of decisions on this card. But the most interesting fight to me that I want to talk about today was Joaquin Buckley versus Kamaru Usman. It's great to see. I'm a big fan of Kamaru Usman. I put him number 2 all time at 170 pounds behind GSP. I got to work with him. We called the Titan fight together. He was color. I was play-by-play. Nice guy. Really good guy to be around. Very talkative, friendly, great to his fans, great to work with. So I like him, right? And I know a lot of people. I live here in South Florida. And, I know a lot of people who trained with him and like, yeah, man, good dude, real solid. They all talk about his work ethic. They all talk about his drive. They all talk about how he's unbelievably fit, all these things. And this is before all the injuries and everything. So, but he had lost 3 in a row, 2 to Leon Edwards, 1 to Khamzat Chimaev. So monsters, right? But still lost 3 in a row, still had almost 2 years off. At the tail end of his career, to say the least. And we've known about the injuries. They've been around for a long time. But at 38 years old, everything gets worse, not better. And so this was the prototypical fighter on the way up or fighter that we're interested in, might be a contender taking on the old former champion who's kind of past it, who has the name, but might not have what they used to. Slowed down quite a bit. This is a theme in combat sports all the way through. All the way through. If you're an up-and-comer, and Joaquin Buckley, we can discuss, and we will discuss whether or not he's really an up-and-comer. He's been around for a long time. But at the elite level, at the contender level, kind of just getting to know him in a sense, you got to beat these former champions. Kamaru Usman wins a unanimous decision based on his takedown, his top control, a cut early on Joaquin Buckley. Let's go over the nuts and bolts here of the fight. First thing I thought is, the takedown in round number 1, that takedown's way too easy. Way too easy. What I mean by that is, you have a guy in front of you who is 38 years old, years of injuries. He's had bad knees for years. And he said that in a recent interview, like, I've had bad knees for years, and I was able to become champion, do all this stuff. I know people that train with him, like, yeah, man, really tough, and his knees are shot, right? And this idea that hurts your explosiveness. Any idiot could tell you that. It's the idea that a blast double leg takes you down early in round number 1, and you're on your butt and your back the whole first round. That was Joaquin Buckley. You can't afford that. You cannot afford to give up easy takedowns. What you have to do, and what Joaquin Buckley never successfully did, was make Kamaru Usman go for that second and third explosion to take you down. He didn't really do that until round 5. He had good takedown defense in round 5. He won round 5. But by then, he was in too deep of a hole. It didn't matter. You're not going to test someone's injuries or their fitness or their physical ability to go if you don't make them go. Stop the first takedown. They have to drive a second and third time. That's what separates D1 standout wrestlers from a guy who was good in high school, is the first takedown rarely works at the Olympic level or in, the later stages of the NCAA tournament, stuff like that. You got to have really good setups, which are hard to do in MMA. So a lot of times in MMA, you kind of get a leg and then, they sprawl and you got to drive and cut the angle and do all this stuff that a young man can do. An older fighter is much more difficult. If you let an older fighter just take you down with a blast double leg, okay, well, you got a long night in front of you. Round number 1, I went, Joaquin's in trouble. You can't give up a round like that off such an easy takedown. And that was the story of the first 4 rounds of the fight. That Joaquin Buckley couldn't maintain distance to make a worn-out fighter go beyond his physical capabilities. What a veteran fighter does, and this is across combat sports. The best example is Bernard Hopkins all time. I don't know how many of you are boxing fans to go back that far. He was really good at fighting 2 minutes of a 3-minute round, right? That's what veteran fighters do really well, is they work as hard as they have to win a round. I don't have to beat you for 3 minutes. I got to beat you for more than 1.5 minutes of a 3-minute round. That's how I have to win. And B-Hop did that better than anyone ever. That's why he could fight so freaking late into his career. He didn't try to fight for 3 minutes. And Kamaru Usman, in these situations, you can kind of see it in his face, like, this guy is letting me get a single leg, double leg, get a takedown, and work at a moderate pace the whole round. He's not making me work harder than I want to work. Joaquin Buckley, also on the bottom, didn't take a lot of risks that you could take with an older Kamaru Usman that you couldn't take with a younger Kamaru Usman. Push him off with both feet, start a scramble, give your back for a second, and explode. Meaning Kamaru Usman, a young Kamaru Usman would take you down again or choke you out or whatever. You want scrambles on unorthodox positions when you're taking on older guys. They can't keep up like they used to. So you can kind of take risks that you can't take with a younger version of that fighter. And Joaquin Buckley never did that. So he let Kamaru Usman fight at an old man's pace. Right? He allowed him to do that. And you're never going to beat Kamaru Usman at an old man's pace. You got to push it and push it and push it and make him fight like a young man. He didn't do that. Also, on the feet, similar thing. Joaquin Buckley has never been a physical pressure kind of guy. He should have been in this fight. Done a little bit more of that. He's done it, in previous fights. He didn't do it in this one. What I mean by that is he fought kind of what I call tiki-tack, which he was outside looking for explosive opportunities to get in and score points, right? So he's on the outside and he goes, wha-bang, and it kind of goes back again. Wha-bang, goes back again. That allows Kamaru Usman to relax, deal with your offense, and go again. Pace himself. If Joaquin Buckley had marched Kamaru Usman down, meaning maintain range with the jab, with your lead foot, but put physical pressure on Kamaru Usman, you make an older guy work harder than he wants to, physically and mentally, because it's very fatiguing having a guy kind of in front of you that you have to deal with the whole time. That in and out kind of style let Kamaru Usman fight when he wanted to, or defend the attacks of Joaquin Buckley, and then go back into this kind of medium mode. He was able to do that the whole time. So even on the feet, when they had a sustained kickboxing battle, it wasn't the kind of kickboxing battle. A lot of leg kicks, that would have been good too against a guy with bad knees. Joaquin Buckley didn't fight in a style that's going to test Kamaru Usman. Didn't do it. Didn't do it at all. And so, you got to pull somebody. Kamaru Usman's so good in his comfort zone. You got to pull him out of his comfort zone. And Joaquin Buckley never did it. So hats off to Kamaru Usman. Great fight, very intelligent fight. Now, the cut in round number 1. It bled into the eye. The placement wasn't good. But I've seen worse cuts. It wasn't a fight-stopping kind of cut. So we got cut early. That could have affected his game plan. Yeah, it could. A cut like that, it sucks. But if you can't deal with that, I don't know what to tell you. And also, I didn't see a lot of, he wasn't pawing at it a whole lot. He wasn't doing the kind of things where I went, oh man, it's really affecting his vision. He seemed okay. So the cut sucked, but it didn't seem like the kind of cut a veteran like Joaquin Buckley couldn't deal with. There. So beyond that, everybody was talking about it. I remember it was a 2-1 underdog, Kamaru Usman, right? Like, what was it, 2.5? Right, he was plus 250, I think, and then Joaquin Buckley was like minus 180, something like that. So roughly 2-1. The idea that Kamaru Usman, had he lost, would have been exiled from the elite at 170 pounds. He wouldn't be fighting for a title again, but he still would have had big money fights. He signed a big contract last time out. He makes a lot of money, right? He's in that room of former champions, still making a lot of money. So had he lost, he's not fighting for a title anymore. He's still a big name. He's still one of the greatest of all time. He would have made a lot of money in his last couple fights before he hung up his gloves, all this stuff. So people talked about what Kamaru Usman would have lost because he was such an underdog with a loss to Joaquin Buckley. He would have lost title contention. I don't think he wins a title anyway. I'll discuss that in a second. But it's this idea that he's still in that room of big money fighters who's doing really well. Joaquin Buckley really needed this. And as I said when I opened this video, this is a very normal thing in combat sports, which is up and comer against former champion. You have to beat the former champion. You have to. To get in the room that Kamaru Usman is already in of elite guys, you have to beat guys like this, and usually you got to beat them pretty decisively. Joaquin Buckley did not. I think Joaquin Buckley needed this win more than Kamaru Usman did. Feel free to discuss it in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think. But I remember thinking, Usman's fine with a loss. He's a former champion, still with a big name, still, signed a contract to make a lot of money. His last couple fights, he'll do very well. Joaquin Buckley is one of those guys where if I'm the UFC, I'm going, yeah, maybe. He's doing okay. He's had some losses, had some wins. There's this idea. The streak he's on is impressive right now, but is he for real? Are there a ton of really great, relevant names right now on his resume? They could hedge on it, right? And be like, well, maybe. But man, if he looks good against Kamaru Usman, he's in the room. Okay? And he lost. So if you're Joaquin Buckley, will he still have fights? Yes. Could he still climb back at 31? Yeah, that's not necessarily old for 170 pounds. You're starting to get there. He could have another opportunity at some point. But this would have been huge for him in his career, especially if he looked really good. And at 2-1, that's another thing. You're talking about the odds. You're 2-1 favorite. You got to look good, right? This is a guy you're supposed to steamroll. So he didn't do it. He'll probably get another opportunity at some point, but he's still stuck in the room just below the room that Kamaru Usman is in. His money is good. It's not going to be great. If he's renegotiating now, and I don't know the status of his contract, if he's renegotiating right now, they're going to go, okay, here's this. If you had beaten Kamaru Usman, it's this. But you're getting this. So, understandably, like this was your audition, right? We're going to give you a part, but you're not going to be the lead. So that's kind of the deal. I really think that Joaquin Buckley needed this a bit more than Kamaru Usman needed it. Now, where do you go from here? Kamaru Usman has said, I don't want Belal Muhammad. I want the next title winner, right? He's going to have trouble with any of those guys. And I don't think I'm saying anything particularly controversial here. It's the idea that you could see how, as I just hopefully broke down, that he wasn't pushed physically beyond his capabilities against Joaquin Buckley. Anybody who is champion at 170 pounds, a storied division that's right now probably my favorite, being biased because that's the weight I fought in, the idea that none of those guys push him past his physical limits is absurd. Anyone, it could be Islam Makhachev, right? Could be Jack Della Maddalena. By the way, you guys think I'm saying Magdalena? I'm not. I'm saying Maddalena. So, on a previous video, people were like, why do you say Magdalena? I'm not saying Magdalena. I'm saying Maddalena. It may sound like I'm saying Magdalena, but I'm not. I know how to say his name. So, anyway, I'm saying a D. If it sounds like a G, I apologize. So there's Jack Della Maddalena. There is Islam Makhachev. There's Shavkat Rakhmonov, right? Ian Machado Gary. Any of those guys make Kamaru Usman work really hard to win. He's got to really push it. And at 38 years old with his injuries, I think this was as good as it was going to get. He fought a guy who kind of allowed him to get his game going, who didn't have, I don't know, maybe the championship level experience to make certain adjustments. I don't know. I really like Joaquin Buckley. I think he's a great fighter. It's this idea that any of those guys, it's going to be a referendum on what he has physically in the tank. I don't think it's enough to win a title. And that's not an insult. These are great guys. You're an older champion. And personally, I'd love to see it. As I said, I really like Kamaru Usman. I would love to see him win the title again. Oh, my God. Would that put him over GSP? To me, no. But to a lot of people, maybe. The idea of coming back at that age and doing it would be really exceptional. I think we've seen as far as he could probably go. I think anyone above Joaquin Buckley, we'll see what he's got in terms of his knees and his, all these physical problems he's been having. How does he do against those guys? I don't think he wins. That's me. Love to see him try, though. Love to see him try, and that's really what it's all about. And also, there's this evergreen grudge battle between him and Belal Muhammad. My broadcast partner, Chris Algieri, always says, everybody speaks beef. Everybody understands beef. I don't like you. You don't like me. Let's fight. Everybody understands that. And Belal and Kamaru Usman have that. So what I think we're going to see from Kamaru Usman is either a title shot. I don't know if the UFC does it. It's such a crowded division with so many good guys. Would it be right for Kamaru Usman to leapfrog any of them to get a title shot? Maybe, maybe not. But you got to fight one of those guys. One of the guys I just mentioned, right? Shavkat Rakhmonov, Ian Machado Gary, Jack Della Maddalena, Islam Makhachev. One of those elite guys is going to be his next fight. Regardless of if he wins, he gets a title shot for sure. Or that is a title shot, whatever. Then you have if he loses one of those, which I think he probably does, then, all right, Bilal Muhammad, you guys don't like one another. That would be your swan song, and that would be it. But great stuff from Kamaru Usman. I thought he did a fantastic job as a fan. It was great to see. But some strategic mistakes from Joaquin Buckley that he cannot afford to make in the future. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I'll talk to you after the next one.